Helping Seniors Television, all about improving quality of life for seniors. If you're a senior, know a senior, or plan to be a senior, then this show is for you. It's all about helping you develop your own aging plan so you can age actively and with dignity. Helping Seniors Television from the Helping Seniors Network of information, education, and resources.
I'm Kerry Fink. Welcome to Helping Seniors Television. What a pleasure it is to have you here today. On behalf of Joe Steckler, our president and founder, and our entire Helping Seniors team, thank you for joining us. We are here to inform, educate, and connect you to resources that will help you, as Joe Steckler, our president and founder, often calls it, an aging plan. We like to call it helping you get your ducks in a row, which just means helping you to kind of organize those things ahead of time, because along the way now, we're in our 13th year of operation, and last year we took 5,450 calls plus on our senior information helpline. That's that free call to 321-473-7770. And we get calls from seniors themselves. Oftentimes it's adult children of seniors who are calling in. Many times it's just a concerned neighbor of a senior who may be living on their own, and they're concerned that the senior is getting the help that they need. But what we try to do is inform and educate and connect seniors to those resources. And along the way, we can tell you that we get calls from people who are pretty much in a crisis mode. Something has changed. Maybe mom is getting ready to be discharged from the hospital, not safe for mom to come home and be by herself anymore, or different things happen like that. And so we get calls, and we're always trying to connect folks to things that will make a difference. But the common denominator is, while we're really good at finding solutions in complex situations, it's so much better when people are able to plan ahead, because just the peace of mind, the comfort of knowing that there's a plan in place and an idea of what to do, it just lowers the stress situation. We've talked about this before. When you're forced to make a decision on a tight timeline, there's several problems. First of all, you're under a lot of stress to make a decision quickly, which may or may not cause the best decision. Number two, you haven't really had the opportunity to research all available opportunities, what might be the best, and so you're confronted with a short list of what you might be able to do with the time constraints that are in place. And the third problem that always happens when you're doing stuff on kind of short notice is you don't really have time to become a subject matter expert, so you're making complex decisions at a time where you haven't really even been able to school yourself on the best ideas. That's why Helping Seniors is so dedicated to trying to get information in your hands ahead of time. I use this analogy a lot of times. If you get in a car and you're late for an appointment, it seems like you're going to hit every red light, you're going to hit traffic, you're just going to run into one delay after another. But if you just planned your journey out a little bit earlier, you can say, well, today I want to take the scenic route. I want to go this way. I want to just have some time to just enjoy the journey. That's what today's going to be about, because our guest today is Teri Brant, who is with Buena Vida Estates right here in Melbourne, Florida. And one of the distinctions is they are the area's only continuing care retirement community. So because they are the only one, this may be a new concept. I think you're going to get a lot out of the show today. Hello, Teri. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I am so excited that you're here, because what you do as a CCRC, Continuing Care Retirement Community, is that you really epitomize what we're trying to get people to think about, which is planning ahead more than just what's around the next corner. Maybe a good place to begin is, because I always say this, and I don't mean any disrespect, most of us who are not in the business, we just say, mom can't handle it on her own, dad can't handle it on her own. We got to find some old folks place for them. And we use that just generically as a placeholder because we don't have enough education to know how many options really exist. So I wanted to kind of begin to say, I think people have trouble understanding the difference between independent living, assisted living,
right,
assisted living memory care. You have all these variations of what quote, an old folks home might mean. And they're certainly not the old folks homes that we might remember as kids when we were drugged down to see great grandma or great grandpa, because things have just moved so far. But as a continuing care retirement community, that puts you on a whole different level because you're now able to help people adjust to every condition that they might encounter along the way. Where do we begin in this conversation to unpack all this?
Well, I think when you say get your ducks in a row, I think that's probably the epitome of what we do at Buena Vida and what we look for. I think to your point of old folks' home, we still have clients that think, I'm not going to a nursing home.
Okay.
And until they can get in our doors or go on our website and see the community, they don't know what we look like, right? They don't know what senior living is all about. And what has happened is that I think assisted living, that title, people still think that encompasses senior living. And it was for a while, right? It was either nursing home and then it became assisted living for anybody. And so just knowing the verbiage, just knowing what is available to people. But at Buena Vida, you have to come before you need care. So you have to move in as an independent resident. That means no care. So when somebody says, you're going to help mom with her medications, are you going to do this, do that? No, it's like they have a condo at Buena Vida and they are living independently. And the good thing about that is they're still living their life. They're volunteering places. Occasionally we'll have somebody come in that's still working, part-time maybe. And so they are just like you and I living the life. And they come in that way. And then what a CCRC offers someone, a continuing care retirement community, is that the full continuum of care. And you might hear that at some places they have continuing care. That means they might have a couple of levels. But a continuing care retirement community is a concept that means they're going to move in as independent, and then the community has assisted living, memory care, and a skilled nursing should that resident need it. And the majority of a continuing care retirement community have a contract with their residents. So it gives them, you said peace of mind, it gives them the peace of mind and security to know that they are never going to be asked to leave regardless of medical or financial changes.
You know, I think that's a point that maybe doesn't get stressed often enough, is that one of the things Joe Steckler, our president and founder, has talked about a lot is he said, you know, we make plans for our life and we try to do our best to put resources aside that are going to carry us in our retirement years. But one of the things that definitely is a factor is we just live a lot longer. I remember when Joe was first starting this organization, somebody was old if they were reaching their 90s. You know, that was considered old. Now, you could talk to almost anybody who's in this end of it, and they're talking about maybe 100, 103, 105. It's not really like as stretched like maybe it was some years ago. So one of the key concerns is, as you do your retirement planning, to be sure that you're in a position that you don't like outlive your money, because if you're just in a place that you're renting month by month, and then maybe your needs increase, you could find yourself kind of in a real tight corner. Whereas what I understand, and correct me if I don't have this right, is in a continuing care retirement community, that's kind of already built into the whole calculation. You're there to work with them through their entire lifetime then.
We do. We work with them. We sit down and we look at, we're not a financial planner and we're not going to give you advice on what to do. But what we do look at is what an individual has. What are their assets and how old are they? So we're looking at your total assets, but we're also looking at your monthly assets so that we know, okay, this is what you can afford. And maybe you can't afford a large apartment, but you should be able to still afford a smaller one. And the crisis in our area, and I think in areas that have major population of seniors, is that they are aging, living longer, like you said, and they are moving into these assisted living communities that are rentals. And when they run out of money, when they've spent all their money, those communities are saying, I'm sorry, you have to leave. It's like an apartment complex, like you said. If they can't pay, they have to leave. And where do they go? You know, around here, they're looking at skilled nursing, which they don't really need a nursing home, or they're looking at an apartment that the rent is going to be less, but has no care.
Right.
And so these individuals that may need true care are living in an apartment because they can't afford to live in the assisted living any longer. And that's not a scare tactic. Those are things are really happening.
Yeah. And, I think the other thing that we've talked about a little bit along the way is one of the things that you must do is you must research what's going on with a place that you move into because, there are so many new things popping up. But what I have gathered kind of ear to the ground talking to different people is it also probably has a little bit to do with the mentality of the ownership of the building. So like what might have started out as a terrific building and get sold to somebody else, the new owners may have a totally different way of running things, and then everything shifts. One of the things I asked you just before we went on the onto the TV, I said, how long has Buena Vida been around? And I was really surprised. You said it's been here since 82.
82. It's been 42 years. And what I'll tell you as far as what you're saying, some of these corporations that own senior living, they all have management companies, and those change periodically and sometimes way too often.
Yeah.
If you're in a continuing care retirement community, that is monitored by the state insurance industry. So we can't change a rate without having an approval. We can't sell our building and say, oh, we're going to make it condos now, forget senior living.
Right.
We cannot do that. We're a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing to look at. Like you said, do your research. We send people, if they come to talk to us, we're like, you need to go to more places because Buena Vida isn't a perfect fit for everyone, just like no place is perfect for everyone.
Well, let's talk a little bit specifically about how you explain to somebody when they come in and they say, okay, I'm considering options. I want to be diligent. I want to get my ducks in a row. I want to learn what are the things I might do. Somebody comes and sits down with you. You're going to take them on a tour of the place, which is absolutely beautiful. But how do you walk them through what living at Buena Vida could mean for them?
I think we get a lot of people in that this is a whole new concept, senior living. Mm-hmm. They don't have any idea what it is, including the children that are my age that are coming in. Mm-hmm. It's an education for us as well, right? Right. Because we've not had to look at it. But to your point, as far as walking them through it, we wanted, first of all, we asked them, tell us about you. And we get a lot of information when they start talking. I would tell you that maybe 40% of our residents do not have children.
Wow.
Which is huge because they don't have children that are going to take care of them. Right. And honestly, a lot of children don't want to take care of their parents.
Yes.
Or vice versa. Parents don't want their children taking care of them. So CCRC is going to give that advantage that they know that they are never going to have to choose another place to go. Yeah. So those are conversations that we start with. Tell us about you. And then, we're talking to them about their finances. We're talking to them about medical situations. And sometimes we're sitting with somebody, and when we start talking about that, it's the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
Again, because they have to be independent and they have to have the funds. So we do a periodical chart as far as age. And so we're going to look at, okay, you're going to live to be another 15, 20 years is what we're saying now to a retiree.
Right.
And then do you own a home?
Yep.
This generation has pensions.
Yeah.
We're not going to have pensions.
Right.
And so what are your Social Security numbers that are coming in? So we're trying to work with them, again, not giving them financial direction, but trying to have those conversations so they know that they can afford to be there. We know that medically they're okay to be there. There's a lot of that. And then if we go forward, then we're showing them the community. And we cannot walk through Buena Vida where the residents aren't just stopping everybody and asking if they're going to be living there and how much they love it and what they do. And it's a wonderful life. We say a lot of times it's a life like on a cruise ship. Yep. Except you're not going to get dizzy and you're not going to get seasick because everything is there that you do on a cruise ship, from the food to the activities to the fitness to everything, entertainment, everything.
Yeah, no, it is a fantastic location, but I think one of the things that you really are talking about. And, you have a great location. First of all, you're right there in this kind of like I call it the center of the whole Melbourne. You're close to the mall. You're close to a lot of medical communities that if that's needed. And there's just all sorts of interesting things near where you are geographically. But probably to me anyway, it feels like one of the most important things is the fact that so much of what you can anticipate is already covered because now you've done your homework, you've made your decision, and now you can just kind of relax and enjoy your life and know that, you're kind of covered whichever way you're going.
And that's true. And what we explain to someone is senior living is not inexpensive.
Right.
No matter what route you go. And so when we're looking at and talking to someone, we're getting a feel for what they can afford.
Right.
And then in a continuing care retirement community, you're going to have an entry fee that underwrites long-term care.
Mm-hmm.
So we can show a person what the costs are everywhere and then what Buena Vida's costs are. But what you're going to find is that our residents know what they're going to pay in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're at a rental community and you don't know what's coming, you have no idea what those costs are going to be.
Right.
And so we have a fee sheet that will explain what they pay depending on the lifestyle that they choose in independent. Mm-hmm. Is it a one bedroom? Is it a cottage? And then they know those independent rates go away when they need care. And so they know what they're going to pay when they need care in all levels. So it's really a security thing for them to know, oh, well, I can afford that. In 70% of our apartments, they're going to pay less when they go to a care level.
Wow.
That's huge. No one offers that. And many CCRCs don't offer that.
Wow.
But we've done this long enough. Right. We know what the costs are and how to take care of our residents.
Isn't that really one of the key points? I was just thinking to the point you're just bringing up. One of the problems is when you are a renter, just period, you don't know what the next renewal is going to bring to you. Like, you can assume it's going to go up. We just don't know what they're going to come back and say, this is what it's going to cost you. And then you think, well, but I own a home, so I don't have to worry about that. But yes, you still do, right? Because you don't know what's going to hit you with insurance. You don't know what's going to hit you with property taxes. So you don't know what's going to hit you with repairs and all these other factors that are going to come in. And so even though you might think you're achieving a lot of certainty, you really can't be sure, right? And then if something requires another level of care, all those plans could be out the window anyway, right? Isn't that really, am I saying like that? To me, that seems like the point of what you're explaining.
Yeah, exactly. And you never know. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen to our residents, but they know that they're at least going to have a place.
Yep.
They're not going to have to look for another community that might have the memory care if they don't have it, right? And they know what the costs are going to be.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that people, I had explained to me one time by somebody who said, listen, when you look at retirement communities in general, people are trying to maybe equate, like this is what I pay currently and this is what this is going to be. And this seems like a bigger number than this. But then when you start to add back all the things that you don't have to include in a budget when you are in a retirement community, it actually really levels the playing field a lot. And I guess as you talk about going through that kind of financial conversation, you probably discovered that it's what might seem maybe expensive probably ends up being over the lifetime a real value.
It does. And I think the eye-opener for us is when a single lady comes in. She owns a small home and she doesn't have anybody. Mm-hmm. Okay. So a single lady comes in and we have a real example of this. She came in and she said, I can't afford Buena Vida because she had heard that it were really expensive. We take all your money. And, she said, I can't do that. So she came in, she sat down with Debbie and had a great conversation. And Debbie worked out the numbers for her and showed her what it was going to cost for a one bedroom. Now, she probably wouldn't need or want or afford a cottage.
Right.
But the option is there that she could take the 1 bedroom. She knew what the entry fee was going to be. It came out of the equity from her home.
Right.
And then she knew what she made every month. It was our lease, our monthly rate, which includes everything but your telephone. That is always going to be lower than somewhere else because you've paid the entry fee.
Right.
But again, that entry fee underwrites long-term care so that when you need the care, the rates are much lower, like 70% lower than the retail rates.
See, Joe Steckler, our president and founder, he always has talked about the importance of folks having long-term care insurance. But at the same time, in the 13 years that we've been talking about helping seniors, he says, Kerry, he said, there's fewer and fewer opportunities to find there's less people in the long-term care insurance business, and it's a tougher thing to put together. But clearly, that's the help that you need when you need it most. And it sounds like that's already calculated in when somebody becomes a resident of Buena Vida.
It is, and I will tell you that if someone has a long-term care policy, we work with them because a long-term care policy works that when you need care, when you need help with your daily living activities, that's assisted living, that's when most policies will start paying you, okay, through a doctor's note, that kind of thing, a form. And so that check is sent to that resident, and then they pay their monthly. And I can tell you that what they're receiving is a whole lot less than what Buena Vida charges most of the time. We looked at a long-term care policy, my husband and I. When I got into this industry, I said, we need long-term care. And I will tell you that the coverage was nothing like it was 30 years ago.
That was Joe's point.
The cost is astronomical, like more than a mortgage payment.
Yeah.
And they just don't do what they used to do. So when someone has a policy that they've been paying on for years and years, we say, don't get rid of that.
Right.
It's going to take care of you, but not everybody, especially our age, not everybody can afford it. If you got it early, great.
Yeah. But the flip side is if you sit down and have the conversation at Buena Vida, you're actually getting that same kind of benefit because that is part of the entire program. That makes it why it becomes that continuing care retirement.
Well, the entry fee is considered a long-term care policy. So when we tell somebody that if you have some diagnosis that a long-term care policy would not cover, it's the same at Buena Vida.
Okay.
It's not always our decision. It's what would be covered with a long-term care policy because that entry fee is that.
Right. So this kind of goes back to the little drum beat we started at the start of the program. Where we're always saying you got to get on these things early. We have, we joked about this. We talk about getting your ducks in a row, and there's 2 corollaries that we've added to this along the way. One is be wise like an owl and don't do this or don't try this on your own. Get help from people who know what they're doing. You may be the smartest rocket engineer in the world, but you're an expert in that area, and talk to people who are experts in aging because they can make the journey much, much better for you. But the second part that we really have started harping on a lot is, again, I don't know why the barnyard keeps fitting into this, but we say, don't be an ostrich. Don't be putting these things off. Be proactive and figure out now, while you have all these options, all these things that you consider, who is a good person to give a call and say, hey, I heard you guys talking about this. I would like to learn more to find out if a CCRC is
right for me, right?
Is right for me. Yeah.
I would tell you to call Buena Vida Estates. There are 2 of us, Debbie and myself. We will take as much time as you want, and we will sit with you and go through everything. We don't push. We have a wait list. So we have probably 50% of our wait list residents say, we're not ready yet. And that's okay. You can stay on that list. You'd let us know when you're ready. And as we come to you, we will show you an apartment, and then you make that decision. But it's really important to look early.
Right.
And then you decide, a wait list for us, you go on it. There is a fee to be on our wait list. Right now it's $5,000, and that is totally refundable for any reason. So you have nothing to lose, right? You pay to be on a wait list, but if you decide next week, next year, look, this isn't for me, we'll give that money back to you.
So really, how far in advance should we be having these conversations with you?
Whenever you start thinking that maybe the house is getting to be too much.
Okay.
We have people come in and they say, we're not ready to do this yet, but we want to know what's out there. We're starting to plan, right? Get your ducks in a row, starting to plan what's out there for us.
Yeah.
And it's a huge decision. It's not something that you're going to decide next week, oh, I'm going.
Yeah.
What's nice is that we do have a wait list. It gets you ready to think, okay, I got to get my head wrapped around this. The only urgency is the date that you go on the wait list.
Yeah.
For us.
Wow. Well, this is so important. So let me ask the question this way, Teri. If somebody says, okay, I want to learn more about this is a new concept, I kind of see how it integrates all these things that I probably need to factor into my retirement years anyway. How do they reach you? Where does this journey begin?
Okay, so we're at Buena Vida Estates on 192 in West Melbourne, right at the corner of Hollywood and 192, just west of Hollywood. You can call us. The number is 321-724-0060. Call us and just ask for the marketing department. If you just say, I want information, our receptionist will be happy to send you to Debbie or myself.
Okay. So I hope this has been valuable for you to get an insight into Brevard County's only continuing care retirement community, Buena Vida Estates. And thank you, Teri, for helping explain this is something that we need to take into consideration and see if this is going to help us in our retirement years. So we want to thank you today for joining us for Helping Seniors TV. We'll see you next time.
I'm Joe Steckler. Thank you for joining our program today. I'd like to remind you that our senior information line is available to you at 321-473-7770. There you can get help and direction that could be helpful for your specific situation or circumstances. The work of helping seniors is very important, but we can't do it alone. That is why our sponsors here in Brevard County are so important. I'd like to thank our many area sponsors, businesses, and medical providers who support the mission of helping seniors that help us carry the cost of our media efforts. If you'd like to join us either as a business partner or simply donate as an individual, we welcome your call at 321-473-7770. You are always welcome to visit our website at www.helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. Thanks so much for your help. It does make a difference.